Good evening. This meeting of your Pontiac City Council is hereby called to order for Tuesday, January 9th, 2024. This is the 125th session of this 11th council. We are called to order at 6:04 p.m. And we turn now to Councilman Parker to introduce this evening's invocation.
Thank you, Brother President, and good evening to everyone. I hope you've had a good week so far. We are our invocation was given to us by Pastor Emeritus Kathy Desrow.
Before we start the official prayer, we have a common prayer. We're thankful for the Lions win, and we're thankful for the U of M win.
Okay.
That's something we can all agree on.
Okay.
Father, we come to you tonight, thankful for another year. Thank you for another chance to get it right. We ask, Lord, that as we come to you tonight, we're asking for some gifts. We're asking for kindness. We're asking for mercy. We're asking to be taught how to love one another. And we're asking, Lord, that your will would be done as we go forward leading this city into whatever your plan for it is. And we'll be careful to thank you, for we ask it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We join now as a community to have a moment of silence, remembering Esteban Cruz Luciano of Pontiac, 41 years old. He was crossing Perry Street near Pontiac Road early New Year's Day when he was struck and killed by two vehicles. And this is an FYI since they're still searching for information. The first vehicle was an older model GMC Yukon or Chevrolet Tahoe. The second vehicle is believed to be a small pickup truck. We mourn the death of our Pontiac neighbor and ask for anyone with information to contact the Oakland County Sheriff Department. Please join us for a moment of silence in honor of Esteban Cruz Luciano's life. Thank you. Roll call, Clerk Doyle.
Carrington.
Present.
Goodman.
Here.
James.
Here.
McGinnis.
Present.
Nicholson. Parker.
Here.
Rutherford.
Present.
Mr. President, you have quorum.
Quorum being established, could I please have a motion to excuse Councilman Brett Nicholson from the meeting for personal reasons? Moved by Rutherford and seconded by Goodman. That motion is now before us. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, roll call, Clerk Doyle, on the motion to authorize the excusal of Councilman Nicholson from this evening's meeting for personal reasons.
Carrington.
Yes.
Goodman.
Yes.
James.
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
Rutherford.
Yes.
6 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. The resolution, the motion passes, and Councilman Nicholson is excused accordingly. Is there a motion to approve this evening's agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Support.
Moved by Councilman Goodman, seconded by Councilman Parker. That motion is now before us. Is there any discussion, amendments, changes sought? Hearing no further discussion, roll call, Clerk Doyle, on adoption and approval of the agenda.
Goodman.
Yes.
James.
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
Rutherford.
Yes.
Carrington.
Yes.
6 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. The agenda is approved, and we will proceed accordingly. Is there a motion to approve this evening's consent agenda?
Moved by Carrington.
Support.
It's been moved by Pro Tem Carrington, seconded by Councilman Parker. This evening's consent agenda includes the January 3rd, 2024 City Council meeting minutes. With that, roll call, Clerk Doyle, on the consent agenda adoption.
James.
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
Rutherford.
Yes.
Carrington.
Yes.
Goodman.
Yes.
6 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. The consent agenda is adopted, and the January 3rd, 2024 City Council meeting minutes are approved. We are now at our special presentation this evening. The audit for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2023 was completed, and submitted to the state of Michigan by the required time frame. So we turn now to our deputy mayor and ultimately our finance director to present on some of the highlights and takeaways. Deputy Mayor, you have the floor.
Thank you. So I won't delay. I will turn it over to Director Sadowski. As you said, this is just highlights the very broad overview of the financial audit. Director Sadowski.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I did a brief overview. The first page of the presentation shows the general fund, which most people believe is the most important because it provides a lot of the services such as police and fire and public works. On the top, you'll see revenues. Revenues are made up mainly of three areas, which is property taxes, 11.6 million, income taxes, 19.1 million, and state grants. You can see that's 12.4 million. A lot of that is state revenue sharing and the local community stabilization share, which is formerly known as personal property tax reimbursements. Coming together, that total revenue is $47.3 million, a little bit higher than we normally see due to the increases in property taxes and income taxes. Expenditures going down, general government is the main administrative treasury. You have treasury, accounting, all the administrative offices. Public safety, 24.9 million, includes the contract for the Oakland County Sheriff's Department and Waterford Township Fire Department. You can see that is the largest expenditure at $24.9 million. Public Works, this is just the general fund operations. So things like streets is in its own fund, but for general expenditures for Public Works, building maintenance, that type of expense. And the next largest one down is retiree benefits, $3.9 million. We currently have one division that is not completely funded, and we continue to make that annual payment to that pension plan until it is 100% funded. So those totaled up. Oh, I should also include debt. We have the principal payment for the Ottawa Towers parking and the interest charges that go along with that. Total $41.7 million. So looking at just the operation side, how we function, providing the daily services, we have revenues over expenditures, also known as net income, of $5.6 million. So we operated very well, considering we were very well under budget and we had a surplus. Now, going down further is what they call other financing sources. What that means is things that are outside of normal operations. We've had large investment income, so $3.1 million. Prior years, it was very little, so that really helped our bottom line increase. Transfers in, $11.5 million. Most of that is ARPA. $10 million of that $11.5 million is the ARPA contribution coming into the city. So the city had the funds already, but we actually recognized it. And we recognized that expense going towards public safety. When we filed our grant reporting, we said that we would use those funds for public safety, and we did. And below that is transfers out. Most of the transfers out is district court operations. The general fund makes up the difference from any fines that is levied minus the operational costs for district court. So then we come to the bottom, which is net change. That's everything. Operations plus the other sources. The total fund balance increase is $16.7 million. Very well for the city. As I said, 10 million of that 16.7 million is ARPA funds. So the fund balance was $23.5 million when we started up. You add the 16.7 million together, that's $40.2 million the city started out with. this current fiscal year, July 1st. So people always know, well, what do you have to send? What's the available resources? It's $40.2 million if we spent every single dollar in the bank. So that's very well. When you compare that to the annual expenditures of $41.7 million, that's almost an entire year's worth of operations in the bank. So very well, good operating last year. I just wanted to note, people wanted to know where that money is coming from, and I did a small comparison. You can see the property taxes at the top have increased $2.4 million. So we did, there were increased in levies. As we know, property tax values went up, so property tax income went up. Income taxes also went up. So we have more jobs, we're employing more people, we're collecting more money. That also went up $1.9 million from the prior year. So those are the two big reasons why we had such a good year last year, is property taxes and income taxes. You can also see expenditures down below that, pretty much the same as last year. We are spending more on public works, we are spending more on public safety, a little bit more on general government, but overall, it's pretty much in line with cost of living adjustment, incremental increase in expenditures. And below that, you can see the big difference. And like I said, investment income is a big part of that. $3.1 million we received in interest this year compared to $191,000 in the prior year. So due to increased interest expense, I know we all pay for it at the bank, but the city's getting a lot of money in return because it has a lot of money in its savings. And so those are the large three comparisons, plus the ARPA fund between the different fiscal years, is the reason why it was so well. And that's the general overview.
Okay, and for the community's benefit, fiscal years don't always line up with calendar years. So for many municipalities, including Pontiac, our fiscal year begins July 1st. So this is a summary of the year that concluded this past June 30th, and then there's 6 months to provide the audited financial statements which took place. So this is the summary from that concluded audit of the closing of those books. So I appreciate the hard work that went into that. I know that you, as the leader of the finance department, are contending with various different agencies, entities, consultants, staff, a lot of moving parts. So I want to thank you for helping coordinate and corral that process. First hand I saw was Pro Tem Carrington.
All right, thank you, President McKinney. Just one quick question. Since the Haley override was approved, do you know the variance of the increase to the taxpayers since the last fiscal year?
So that is actually going in this current fiscal year, not in the last year's audit. So that will gain it was another over $1 million increase in property tax revenue that the city will realize from the Haley override. But it wasn't reflected in this audit.
All right, thank you.
Councilwoman James.
Yeah, on page 8 of the report, it mentions another report that was dated December 29, 2023, and it's the City of Pontiac Internal Controls Audit. That was in addition to the audit. Is that a part of this report, or is that separate?
On page 8 of the
Finance, of the audit. Other matters, supplemental,
Yep. All right, let's see.
right at the bottom. It mentions the supplemental report that we had asked for.
Right, that is because the city spent more than $750,000 in federal grants. And when you spend that amount of money, you have to have an additional audit, which is all the way at the back. If you flip all the way to the back of it, you will see the single audit.
Okay.
And I believe it starts on page 130.
Okay.
Yep, it starts on page 130 and it goes to the back. It does have the reports, as it says, internal controls, It identifies from the prior audit the steps the city had to take to address its internal controls.
Okay.
So it's a carry forward. It's everything identified, and the internal controls were reported in the last fiscal year's audit also.
Okay, thank you. The other question is, I don't know what page it is, but I was looking through the audit, and it had the 3 million that was set aside for the new rec center.
Okay.
And I think the total amount there was 3,200,000. And I was wondering, is that interest on that 3 million? Or is the actual amount the 3,200? The question is that money, since it's on hold and has been for well over a year, are we investing, is that money in any kind of an investment?
Yes, so every single dollar of the city's is invested. And the city made that change when I came on board a year ago. We sat down with the treasurer and we implemented what's called an investment sweep.
Yeah.
So every single day, anything that's not in long-term investments like CDs and mutual funds,
Okay.
anything that's sitting in a bank account, even to the penny, gets swiped out every night.
Okay.
We get interest on that at 5% right now and gets returned back. So that's why you had that over $3 million in interest income.
Okay, so that 3,200,000 reflects interest income.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councilwoman Rutherford.
Question for the administration, has all the jobs been fulfilled in the finance department as of today?
No.
Follow-up question, yielding to the president, what is the outlook or the timeline so that the financial department can have those positions fulfilled? And when are they going to be placed? Are they going to be in the, are they going to be in the job fair come February, mid-February? What's the timeline? I yield to the president to yield to you.
Deputy Mayor, if you'd like to take that.
Absolutely. So they will, of course, any open jobs will, of course, be included in any job fair that we do. And as we have discussed before, it is not possible for me to give you any accurate idea as to how long it is going to take to fill any of the open positions that are out there. It is just a tight labor market, and we are doing our best to fill the jobs as quickly as we can. We don't just want butts and seats. We want the correct person to fill the correct opportunity.
My follow-up would be this to the administration, well, actually to you, sir. Sir? Hello, thank you. First of all, you're doing a good job. I appreciate the transparency. If a person was trying to find out just the nuts and bolts and an easy timeline to read, can you make this more user-friendly, because there will be questions about this audit? And so can you guys make it so that if anybody from the community would want it, it could be accessible and make it user-friendly?
Some frequently asked questions.
Yes, like how much is spent? What did you spend on DPW? Are you doing labor training? What are we spending the money on? Outsources, everything, so that when people ask these questions that we don't know or we might not have the information, they can easily look at the piece of paper, a physical piece of paper, say this is what we're spending in the fiscal year.
Sure, we could put a bulletin, small PowerPoint together, I guess, on the main topics.
Yeah, thank you. That's it.
Any final questions or discussion? With that, that concludes the special presentation. Thank you for your time this evening. We are now at recognition of elected officials. We have the president of the school district of the City of Pontiac Board of Education, President Gil Garrett. Just want to recognize you. You are recognized. Thank you for your service to the community. Are there any requests to speak from any elected officials currently in serving the community? Hearing none, we are at agenda address. Pro Tem Carrington, who's the first request?
Thank you, President McGinnis. Dr. Deirdre Waterman.
Good evening. Thank you for this. Several things I wanted to comment on. You do have a list of the people that are vacancies that you're looking for hiring. And I remember last week there was a lecture from, I think, a couple of the council people saying we needed our own city engineer because the excuse for not having the demolition for the youth recreation center that we've all been waiting on, we're blaming on the fact we didn't have our own engineer. Yet, as I look at the list of the people that you're looking to hire, There is an events planner that you want to hire, but no engineer. So we got to figure out what the priorities are in terms of city government in accordance with council. I think there's a failure to communicate, as I said in the Kulhan Luke, to administration about what are the priorities and what are the positions that's most important to be filled so we can move along with the priority issues of the city of Pontiac. The other item that I saw on the agenda was I want to speak to Gladys Smith, who is retiring, a great employee of the city of Pontiac, but I'll get to that in public comment. You are also hiring a consultant to work on the parks. You give them a design fee. You say 10 parks, but the 10 parks are not listed. So, of course, as a part of doing the any kind of agenda item that you have to vote on that has fiduciary responsibility, you should at least say what the responsibility and what the job of the consultant is that's being hired. So what 10 parks are they working on? And the other thing, the audit, generally it's the auditor who gives the audit report. And I guess we did give the report this year because of all the fiasco about last year's audit, which is, although you say it's done on time, it's still not posted. But I'll talk about that in closing comments.
Thank you, Dr. Waterman. Mr. Carlton Jones.
Good evening. I want to respond to the audit report, since that was on the agenda. I didn't get a chance to review the details, but a couple things came out. And Councilman Rutherford, I appreciate you indicating and making it easy for us to have access to it. One of the things that stood out in there, though, that I think that everybody need to be paying a lot of attention to, from that year, President, you sharing exactly that year time frame, we received in about $11 million of what I think were COVID, mostly that in money in, and we spent $1 million less in community and economic development in that same period of time. If you check it out, we took in $11 million of COVID money, but we spent $1 million less in the area of community and economic development. Now, what you use that COVID money for is to try to spur your community with economic development and community development, because that's what that COVID money was basically to do, to try to rebuild your community. So let's see how we could try to do a better job in spending more of that COVID money, not just on brick and mortar, but on people. And the second one I want to speak to, and Deputy Mayor, we would be glad to help you with finding quality people at all different levels. That's what we do with TDC. It's not just one area. If you're looking for people, have enough time frame, we'd be glad to try to help you with finding quality people to come in and work for the city. The item that I want to speak about on the agenda is the parking. I got a chance to really see firsthand what it's like to be part of this parking, of us having somebody down there, and I didn't realize this until I was a victim of it. I went down to try to patronize businesses downtown and was in a place for about 45 minutes and came back out and had a ticket. Now, I had paid, but it wasn't working properly. We need to address that because that is hurting downtown. Most places after 6 o'clock, you don't really have to be paying a meter. But we need to look at it. If it's going to 10:30, that's hurting the businesses downtown and is really not friendly to customers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Ms. Darlene Clark, what items?
First, let me ask you a question. I want to be able to, for a moment of silence, when you show favoritism, I'm just touching on this for a second, for one person, due respect. You know, I have sympathy for everyone who die in Pontiac. Please try not to focus on one particular person, because per week, so many family or people lose a loved one in Pontiac. And with that being said, we have code enforcement in each district was hired to come into the districts to help the slum landlords. You have one particular landlord that's in code enforcement is truly aware of this, that has been on the radar ever since had business in Pontiac, and he has well over 300 business. And I'm not really saying his name correctly, but if I say it, you kind of know who it is. It's called Labarney Properties. Your code enforcement need to address that issue seriously. This man bring people into his properties that's, oh my God, to see it is unbelievable. If you can address that and to see why is he getting away with so much for so many years. He got away with it in last administration, and he's getting away with it in this administration. He putting people in unfavorable homes that actually should be condemned or closed down. Code enforcement has come out there, and they are ticketing him, but a ticket to Lombardi family is like giving him a piece of candy he doesn't even want because he can care less about it. He throws it away. So with that being said, I wish you can address the Lombardi family as to their properties and how they upkeep them.
Thank you, Ms. Clark. President McGinnis, I can close the agenda address.
Okay, agenda address is concluded. Before we go to the next item, I just want to offer a perspective. Anyone who passes away in the city of Pontiac, we want to recognize. And so I put a lot of time to scour, and usually about once a month, any name that hadn't already been read throughout the month, we go through and thoroughly read them and then post them in City Hall. We're not required to do that, but I think it's valuable for us to remember our neighbors that we lose. So if there is someone whose name who has not been acknowledged, please just let us know, and we'll make sure we scour obituaries, we see social media posts, we try and be as inclusive as possible. This week, I intentionally highlighted that there's still a call for information about somebody who was killed. So I don't believe that's showing favoritism. Just trying to make sure that the community is aware of the tragedy and try and recruit and enlist community support to hopefully bring some justice and have some closure. All right, so we are at item number 2 on the agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution celebrating the legacy and impact of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and recognizing January 15th, 2024 as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day? Moved by Councilman Rutherford, seconded by Councilman Goodman. With that, the motion is before us, and we'll give the floor to Councilman Rutherford to read that resolution.
Good evening. Whereas the city of Pontiac, Michigan has witnessed the many developments in the civil rights movement with many current and former citizens who have fought against legalized racial discrimination, disenfranchisement, and segregation in the United States. And whereas the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was the prominent leader in the movement, and among many efforts throughout our nation, he visited Pontiac, Michigan in March of 1958, and over 1,000 attendants witnessed Dr. King address the historic Trinity Baptist Church in Pontiac, following the invitation for Trinity's pastor, Richard H. Dixon. And whereas many residents marched, protested, boycotted, and organized along with Dr. King and many other activists and movement leaders, including on June the 23rd, 1963, the Walk to Freedom in Detroit, Michigan, that drew over 125,000 people and was known as the largest civil rights demonstration in the United States history at the time. And whereas in the decades following Dr. King's life being brutally cut short by an assassination bullet in 1968, the state of Michigan recognized Dr. King's January the 15th birthday as a holiday. The United States recognized it as a federal holiday starting in 1983, and the city of Pontiac renamed East Boulevard as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, among other local honors and designations. And whereas our community continues to work its legacy annually with marches, interfaith religious services, programs, community service projects, and more. And whereas Pontiac City operations and the Pontiac City Hall shall be closed Monday, January the 15th, 2024, in observation of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. federal holiday. Now therefore be it resolved that the Pontiac City Council, in concert with Mayor Tim Grimo, hereby celebrates the life and the legacy of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and further resolve, the Pontiac City Council joins the Pontiac community in honoring his legacy through local marches, religious services programs, public service projects, and other commemorative efforts. And further resolve, he continues to be remembered by the City Council and the Pontiac community as a quintessential leader of global importance who made a difference in our city, our region, our state, our nation, and in this world and further. And further resolved that the Pontiac City Council encourages all residents to participate as they are able and as their health considerations allow in the community celebration and a personal reflection honoring the man, Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion on the motion before us? Hearing no further discussion, roll call, Clerk Doyle.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Rutherford,
Yes.
Carrington,
Yes.
Goodman,
Yes.
James.
Yes.
6 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. The resolution is adopted. And we wish all of the services and celebrations a very powerful and meaningful Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day on Monday, January 15th, 2024. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution to approve code enforcement full-time
So
parking
moved.
position and the lease of 2024 Chevrolet Equinox for code enforcement?
Support.
It's been moved by Councilman Rutherford and seconded by Pro Tem Carrington. Very briefly, this accompanies an approval that the City Council already did last week. We approved the budget, and this is essentially the documentation that follows with the action. So anything further that needs to be shared, Mayor or Deputy Mayor?
I think you summed that up well, Mr. President. I do just want to take this opportunity, if I may, to acknowledge that after not having on-street parking enforcement for 3 years or so, that we understand that there have been challenges with re-implementing it. I'm happy to say that as we sit here today, all of the meters that are not working are clearly marked as such and bagged with directional arrows to meters that are working. But we also have learned some other, I think, very valuable lessons in the past month or so. And we have been talking about some changes to make this more user-friendly for those who are seeking parking. The whole goal here, of course, is to make sure that enforcement of parking is making it more convenient for people, more convenient to find parking, and ultimately helping downtown establishments, including restaurants. And so we do anticipate announcing in the next week or two some changes and improvements to the system. So I just wanted to take this opportunity as we look at this agenda item to approve a full-time code enforcement person, primarily for the purposes of parking enforcement.
Any further discussion? Councilman Rutherford.
Just to piggyback off what the mayor said, and also being the person that represents district, when we are meeting this week to talk about different strategies so that people won't feel so frustrated with how it's being processed and how it's being laid out. So I just want to make sure that the citizens know in our district, we are going to be discussing it tomorrow. Is that not correct, Mayor?
I'd have to look at my calendar, but I know it's this week sometime, yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure. Thank you.
All right, any further discussion on the motion before us? Hearing nothing further, roll call, Clerk Doyle, on adoption of the resolution.
Parker,
Yes.
Rutherford,
Yes.
Carrington,
Yes.
Goodman,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
6 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. The resolution is adopted. We're now at number 4. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution to approve the purchasing manager?
Moved by Carrington.
Support.
It's been moved by Pro Tem Carrington, seconded by Councilman Rutherford. This resolution approves the purchasing manager awarding the contract with LAP Plus Creative and authorize the mayor or deputy mayor to execute the agreement with a not-to-exceed amount of $117,500 for park site planning and community engagement for neighborhood and mini parks in Pontiac. Those 10 parks are Art Dunlap Park, Motor and Montana Park, Dawson Pond Park, Indian Village Park, North Kiwanis Park, Cherry Lawn Park, Baldwin Park, Art Heaton Park, Richardson Park, and Shirley and Willard Park. All right, Mayor and Administration, you have the floor.
Well, thank you. This is a follow-on item to the allocation of a substantial amount of American Rescue Plan Act dollars to making park improvements. And in order to do that, of course, we need to actually do the planning and start the process of designing those improvements, including, and perhaps most importantly, engaging the community about what the community would like to see in these parks. And so with that, and to get into some additional details, we have our Grants Director, Alex Borngesser, here.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. What you have before you is a resolution to authorize the purchasing officer or purchasing manager to engage in a contract with Lab Creative. This proposal was discussed at great length in the subcommittee with Councilwoman Kathleen James. This project it precedes our ARPA Park Revitalization Program and Project. As you know, we budgeted significant ARPA resources for park revitalization for our mini and neighborhood parks as well as our community parks. This planning project focuses specifically on the mini and neighborhood parks. We've discussed that list at great length, and so I'd be happy to review it again here. But first, I'd like to talk about the contract that we have in front of us. This is with Lab Creative. They have extensive experience doing park site planning and community engagement. The process that we're hoping to follow is similar to the Galloway Lake Park community-led design process, really engaging with community stakeholders and the folks in the neighborhood about what they'd like to see in their parks. Lab Creative has significant experience with similar projects. Normandy Oaks Park is a great example of one of their most recent projects, really focusing on making sure that the amenities reflect the wishes and desires of the community, and that's at the forefront of what we're hoping to accomplish. Once Lab Creative completes all of their park site plans and community engagement process, we'll be left with a similar outcome to the Galloway Lake Park community-led design process, which is a brochure, amenity list, preliminary engineering cost estimates, utility identification, things of that nature, and you can see all of that reflected in the minutes from the subcommittee meeting. You'll also see that this contractor came in far below all of the other bidders by a little more than $100,000. The total contract that we're suggesting be awarded is $117,500. Initially, we thought we'd have to stack resources from ARPA and the Michigan Health Endowment Fund grant that we received, but given this low bidder, that will not be required, and we'll be able to utilize the full scope of the Michigan Health Endowment Fund resources without having to utilize any ARPA for park site planning, which is very exciting. This means that we'll have additional resources for implementation and construction and actual park revitalization. So we're recommending that the council vote to pass this resolution to authorize the mayor to execute a contract with Lab Creative so that we can begin this site planning process in these cold winter months and be ready for construction when the sun comes out.
Councilman Rutherford?
First of all, I hear that you're sick. I hope that you feel better. I appreciate you coming here this evening. So once we do this, what's the actual timeline when they're going to be working on the mini park? So once we reward this, do you have an actual timeline of when they're going to start?
Yes. So this proposal closed in October, and there was quite a bit of discussion around this. So the timeline will be shifted back given that. But I believe their timeline was about 3 months worth of work, and I'm flipping through their proposal now to find the actual timeline, but I'd be happy to send it to you or present it again at subcommittee.
Okay, thank you so much. That's it.
Councilman Goodman, followed by Councilwoman James.
I also want to say thank you to you, Alex. I know that you're struggling a little bit to speak.
I sound worse than I actually feel, so
yeah.
Thanks.
But I want to say again, thank you for all that you've been doing, because this has been a long running project, especially when it comes to the parks that aren't, at least in my opinion, pay attention to as much, because not having a large community park in District 3, like North Kiwanis is the largest park in my district, and has a lot of just open land that is not very well utilized and is not really at its full potential yet, along with Cherry Lawn and some of the other mini parks that are in the city. So it's just genuinely very exciting. Not because we've been talking about this for a while, because I'm also in the subcommittee with Councilwoman James, along with Councilwoman Rutherford. So I'm just, again, extremely excited to see things happening in the parks that have been a little bit more left behind and not paid attention to. So thank you.
Great, thank you. And I did find the schedule. It looks like initially they were slated to end in March, but given that we're just now awarding this contract, I imagine that'll be pushed back and it'll be awarded sometime at the end of April, beginning of May.
Councilwoman James?
Yeah, I just wanted to emphasize that this contract is for design only. They're going to be putting together the designs for what we will get in those parks. And then I would think early summer, late spring, will actually get into construction. So would that be?
That is correct. So
Yeah.
what will happen is they'll give us a site plan with preliminary engineering cost estimates. Selfishly, that's the most important part to me. That'll help us determine allocation of resources, exactly how much each of the amenities or improvements will cost in each of the parks. And then we'll be able to assign those resources to each of those parks and engage, hopefully, with a implementation contractor or construction engineering contractor to do construction engineering with construction happening this year, but understanding that engineering of all of that takes some time too. So if I were a betting woman, I'd say end of summer, beginning of fall is when we'll see some real shovels in the ground.
Well, I was hoping for summer, but I guess fall would be okay. I would love to see us working by summer
Yeah.
on construction.
Perhaps these warmer temps are an indicator of a warm fall and long fall.
Okay.
Councilman Rutherford?
So my follow-up through the chair is, do you know the dates they're going to be planning the community engagement portions of it? Or that has not been decided yet? The community meetings to ask what they want to see in our Dunlap and the Motor in Montana Park in particular.
The dates have not been set yet. We needed to award this contract to Lab Creative, and then we'll work with each of the districts to be able to set those meetings appropriately. It will be and feel very similar to the Galloway Lake Park community-led design process, with stakeholder meetings, kind of smaller groups, and then larger community engagement events.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on the motion before us? It is the resolution to approve the purchasing manager to award the contract with Lab Creative and authorize the mayor or deputy mayor to execute the agreement with the not-to-exceed amount of $117,500 for park site planning and community engagement for neighborhood and mini parks in Pontiac. And again, for the community's benefit, we're talking about Art Dunlap Park, Motor in Montana Park, Dawson Pond Park, Indian Village Park, North Kiwanis Park, Cherry Lawn Park, Baldwin Park, Art Heaton Park, Richardson Park, Shirley and Willard Park. Hearing no further discussion, speakers thus exhausted, roll call, Clerk Doyle.
Parker,
Yes.
Rutherford,
Yes.
Carrington,
Yes.
Goodman,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
6 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. The resolution is adopted. We're at number 5. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution?
So moved.
Actually, it might already have been moved and seconded. Let me check with the clerk. So we had that at last week's. We had a motion and a second, and then we postponed it. Okay, so we're all set on that. Thank you very much, Councilman Rutherford. It was deferred for 1 week last week, so we're talking about authorizing the mayor or deputy mayor to enter into a contract with Titan Wealth Advisors for auditing and managing the city's retirement plans in an amount not to exceed $47,000. Mayor and administration, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you, President McGinnis. As we have bolstered our human resources staff and tried to ensure that we are revising and reviewing and improving our human resource compensation packages for employees, we want to make sure that we're getting our defined contribution retirement plans right as well. And we started talking about this proposed contract with a entity, a consulting firm that handles those things. Last week, we started talking about it, but because the city's internal legal director recommended some last-minute revisions, both city council and our administration thought it made sense to defer it a week so that city council could have time to review those revisions. And with that, I want to turn it over to our Deputy Mayor, Kelfani Stevens, to talk about the details.
Thank you, Mayor. All right, so City Council, what you have in front of you is a contract with Secure Asset Management LLC, and you see down there it says name of investment advisor representative, Kevin Vandenhout, and I understand that there was very understandably lots of confusion with why this is Secure Asset Management and not Titan Wealth as the description on the resolution says. And so the reasoning behind that is actually very straightforward, and there may be some questions for it. Kevin Vandenhout is an independent business contractor doing business as Titan Wealth Management. So where it says Representative Kevin Vandenhout is Titan Wealth Management. As an independent contractor, Titan Wealth Management is required to use a brokerage firm for all of their contracts. The brokerage firm that Titan Wealth Management uses is Secure Asset Management. And we have the ability at any point in time with 30 days notice, if Titan Wealth Management, AKA Kevin Vandenhout, decides to leave Secure Asset Management, we can leave Secure Asset Management with Kevin, or we could choose to stay and keep our funds invested through Secure Asset Management. So that is the first item that may have had some pause last week. I'll stop there and ask if there are any additional questions on that.
Please proceed.
Okay. Following then, there were some changes that were made to the actual contract itself. On page 7, there were changes that were made to the standard of care, indemnity, and disclosure. The changes that were made there is that the city generally is not allowed to indemnify entities that we do business with. And so the language was added to say, to the extent permitted by law, so that the city is not entering into an agreement that is unlawful. Additionally, on page 9, there was a change that was made for termination, which just specifies that, you know, if we were to leave the agreement early using our 30-day out clause, that we would only pay on a prorated basis, right? So we would not pay for the entire year. We would only pay for the portion of the year that we had actually used. The final change is on page 14, and that is the arbitration clause was stricken completely.
Okay. So we have our motion before us. Thank you for the context. Any further discussion on the motion before us? Authorizing the entering of the contract, and the amount is not to exceed $47,000. Councilwoman James.
Let me clarify, could you just clarify once more? They are going to provide the service, or are they going to contract a service for us? I can't remember what we talked about here with this.
Yes. So what Titan Wealth Management is going to do is, the first thing, we have a number of different investments that we are managing for our current employees and retirement funds. So they are going to go through, get a handle on all of those, and provide us with a plan so that we can consolidate down to one plan. And then once we do that, they're actually going to, we've given them parameters of what we want that plan to look like. So they will do all of the paperwork necessary to keep us in compliance and get us to the type of plan that we have asked them to do. So the first portion of what they're doing, the $22,000, is getting us into the type of plan that we want. And then the $25,000 on an annual basis is to manage those plans, that plan for us.
Okay, I understand.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing nothing further, roll call. Clerk Doyle on adoption of the resolution for entering into a contract with Titan Wealth Management for auditing and managing the city's retirement plans in an amount not to exceed $47,000.
Rutherford,
Yes.
Carrington,
Yes.
Goodman,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
6 yeas, no nays.
The motion carries. The resolution is adopted. We are now at public comment, a 3-minute opportunity for community members to address the council and the community. Pro Tem Carrington, who's first?
Yes, Mr. Robert Bass.
I don't think the microphone's on. Oh, you're okay. It's good.
To this honorable body, the administration, and the residents at large, Happy New Year to you. My name is Robert Bass. I'm president of Citizen District Council in District 1. And I'd first like to thank my councilperson and the mayor for coming to our meeting Saturday on the 6th, where they shared needful information regarding some issues that we'll be addressing. However, first I want to go to another item. We'd like to give honor to our seniors, members of the CDC, founding members of the 30-plus years organization, Woodward Estates Neighborhood Association. Velma Stevens, James Chapman, Leonard Briscoe, Jesse Stevens, and Barbara Davenport. These all are individuals that have reached a certain age to where most of us will retire and just stay at home and do what we got to do. But these individuals continue to come out and go to meetings. They also, when it's something valuable that we need done, they'll get on the phone and man the phones. They take care of work in the district. And they not only had professions that they did, so in their professions as well as the community service, what these people do, we recognize the residents of their continuing active service in the Citizen District Council and lifelong commitment to the service of District 1 and the city of Pontiac. So we just want to commend these people. My pockets ain't that deep, so I had to do it one step at a time. I come here first, and then I go get them the paperwork or whatever. So we just want to recognize these people because they're at that golden age to where they can't come out as much as they would like to, but they do work. Also, like I said, we had our meeting on Saturday. The mayor came out and councilperson came out. We deal with several issues. 404 Highland is one of the concerns that we're addressing. Jefferson Farm project, that's something that's on our radar that we're trying to deal with. Infill housing, that's coming up, so we'll be dealing with that. And also M1 Concord will be having their ideas put to place.
15 seconds remaining.
That's my time?
You have 15 more seconds, just a
thank
courtesy
you.
heads up.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. But that's about it. I just wanted to share with you. We're on Facebook, and in the coming weeks, we will be sharing some of the information on what we discuss in our meetings once it's been settled. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Bass. Dr. Waterman.
Thanks for your opinion. Mr. Bass, your councilwoman had requested if you could share those names with her so she can also help you celebrate them.
First, I would like to give recognition to Gladys Smith, an employee of the city of Pontiac. She was one of our senior center specialists. She is retiring. She came here in 2018 at a time when Ruth Peterson, many said should be closed because of its low attendance. And I said, well, why is there low attendance? And Gladys began to bring in programs and bring in more people to make sure that that was a valuable senior center for our seniors. And during the pandemic, I must say that all the senior specialists joined together and delivered meals to people who didn't want to go shopping, particularly our seniors. 250,000 meals were served by our senior specialists, our senior centers. So I do say goodbye to Gladys. Enjoy your peaceful rest, and thank you for all you did for our seniors in the city of Pontiac. As you talked about the parks and the planning for that, I would point your attention too to the Parks and Recs master plan that was approved. And we did a lot of visioning and a lot of community engagement. So there's some of that in there. I hope they will use that as well as they plan for these other parks. In addition to the fact, I think Councilwoman James, when that master plan was approved, you asked the question to Alexander Borngesser, who hadn't been here long enough, so didn't know the answer. And you said, did that take care of all the controversy concerning our parks? And at that time, she didn't know. I think the controversy you were referring to was Hidden River Park. As you remember, the 10th Council said, well, we don't know who named that park, so we're going to leave it out. And the Gustafson, who was our planning director at the time, say, okay, let's just leave it out just so we can get it passed. But a park is a park is a park. It was named, and when we look back over the records, it was actually named by the Downtown Development Authority, which had the authority to do that at that time. And there are some video with the Stanley McDonald, who was a Downtown Development Director at the time. So for whatever help that is in terms of answering these questions and the history of that, I will give you that information before you, that Hidden River Park is officially registered and named as a park under the City of Pontiac rules. Getting back to the audit, once again, the audit is not posted. That is part, it should be available to the public. I really couldn't follow the numbers that were given by Mr. Sadowski. From what he was telling me, though, 2 years ago, I remember the Mayor Grimal, on his first duty in office, talked about the fact that the city was in deficit. Well, we weren't in deficit, but he came back and said the next week we're in structural deficit. And I think from what I'm hearing, and I'm going to go back and look at the audit when it's posted and it's available to the public.
There are 15 seconds remaining.
I can read the time. Thank you. I was asked you not to interrupt my line of thought.
But it is the people's time, not yours.
But I can read the time.
Control.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I can read time. All right. But I've been interrupted, and so now you want me to start again with my train of thought. Okay? All right. So I was talking about the audit. All right. And the fact that I can't tell from the figures whether we're increasing the structural deficit because of the fact, unless we add in that $10 million from the ARPA funds, which really was supposed to use for citizen relief. But
That
I'll look at
concludes your
that
time.
once it's posted. Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Water. Mr. Carlton Jones.
Okay, I want to start by saying I want to commend Mr. Bass as he gives recognition to others. Mr. Bass has been doing a gallant job of bringing the CDC, which a lot of people don't know is a real valued entity to the city of Pontiac. And he's been working hard, and as he recognized some of those senior people, I think he needs to be recognized as well for the work he do and bringing the other organizations who participate with the CDC. And I'm a proud member of participating up under the CDC of Mr. Bass' leadership. I do want to say also, in conjunction to those parks, we have found historically, if we can get, when it get to the point when they actually start doing some construction at those parks, if we can engage community people as being a part of that, you see how community parks, when they engage in the construction and help being a part of it, they last and they have more meaning. So if we can do anything, and we'd be glad to help, because that's what we try to do, is engage local people in the process. And on that same line, I want to take just a minute that you guys hear me come here, we talk about CDC or we talk about TDC. Most people hear TDC, but they don't really understand what TDC is. I represent TDC, but it's not just Carlton Jones. I'm the coordinating person for TDC. We got over 50 entities who are partners with TDC. And that right there is really to help with helping to understand the value of education. Our Pontiac School District has made some tremendous leaps in getting the value of education. And I commend the president, Mr. Gil Garrett, and the work he's been doing with trying to get the school district more in line to where we can have some value to education. And that's what CDC is doing. TDC is doing. TDC is trying to take and make the value of education so you can get on a career track and not just be chasing a job. And if we find that reverse engineering is what we use, if we find where the need is, then we can educate them accordingly to get to those positions. So as we have positions we know, you let TDC know, we will then recruit and educate them to be proper candidates. So it's not just a job thing, it's about development of educational process. So we're excited the fact to say that right now we have one new partner who's came in to TDC and acknowledged the fact that we're now going to move into the space of promoting home ownership. Why is that connected to what we do? Because when you get on a career track and you increase the value of your income coming in, you looking for home ownership. So you'll be hearing more about that, and the launching will be on Martin Luther King through Love Thy Neighbor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Pastor Kathy Diserel.
May I assume that a full copy of the audit is available to the public, either online or by coming in? A lot of the cities around us, a few of the cities around us, more accurately, have taken their parking meters free on Sundays, or at least on half-days Sundays, to accommodate the church people. And we now have a church down there at the Strand on Sunday mornings. We need to consider that because the time limit may not be cohesive with the church. What I came to talk about was Perry Street and Pontiac Road. We have been bellyaching about that corner for years now. It is dark. It is impossible to see in a storm or night like tonight, difficult. You have that ridiculous island that nobody knows how to accomplish which side to go on. And we've said for a long time now, somebody's going to get killed there. Well, they have. And it's partially because it's such a terribly dangerous corner. And we have children who cross there to go to school, to come home from school. It's just a bad corner. And I'm hoping that this young man didn't lose his life in vain, but people will take a better look at it.
Thank you, Pastor Kathy. Ms. Darlene Clark.
And as an FYI to the community, there is no charge for parking on Sunday currently. So don't try and pay for parking on Sunday. And there are no less than 4 different churches located within the downtown, but no paid parking required on Sundays.
I have 3 things to speak about. First, that I commend the council and administration, Melody Redford and Tim Grimer, for wanting to use the word transparency. With transparency, you come with also a lot of questions that has to do not with just the budget, but with other actions that is put up on the council and administration. And one of the questions is, why is it that Brett Nicholson appears for the last 6 months to be in and out for District 2? That's been for a lot of the residents, that's been a heavy, heavy question. And then he comes to vote, and then he leaves after he votes. That does not look good for the council, actually. Now, he could be in the background looking, he can be doing a lot of things, but it does not look good for the council, for District 2. Also, I want to ask the administration, you just hired a full team of code enforcement and wanted to hire another code enforcement for parking for overtime. Since District 1 through 7 cannot give us an update on their 3 minutes of what the achievement and accomplishments within the neighborhood, is it possible, Mayor, that code enforcement district for each district can come here and give the residents an update of the things that's a problem within their own district? Like I said before, we have landlords that's in the district that code enforcement has been really cracking down on. But it seems to be that the landlords are repeatedly doing the same thing over and over again. So if the administration could address that, since District 1 through 7 can't, that would help the residents to get a little trust and transparency. Secondly, and last but not least, and this is a question that's coming from retirees, actually, who hire us. On June 3rd of last month, you had a vote, of January 3rd, you had a vote to pro tem. Now, I don't know the situation at hand because I'm not a politician, nor do I try to be one. But we did notice in the administration, this is for Mayor and for Parker, that you had Albright sitting in the audience along with P. Waterman, who's also a trustee on the Gurge board. Now, and they only stayed here for a few minutes. I don't know their intent, and I'm not trying to say their intent. But if they can come here and sit for 20 minutes or less until a situation is covered, why can't someone come and give a clear update on what's going on with these retirees? And yes, I do know I have 15 more minutes. So with
Seconds.
that, seconds. With that being said, let me clear this part and I'm gonna finish this. The people do want to know updates. It's not about the budget, yes. It's not about what's happening. They just need updates to reassure transparency. And Mike McGinnis, let me tell you this.
That does conclude your
The
time.
problem is not that you're saying 15 seconds,
That
it's
does
how
conclude your
loud you're
time.
saying the 15 seconds.
That does conclude your time.
Thank you, Ms. Clark. Ms. Beatrice Wright.
Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, Council. Thank you so much. Councilman Carrington, Clerk Doyle, Happy New Year's, everyone. I wanted to kind of refer briefly to paying respect for someone who has passed away. And the person I'm thinking of is Paul Wilson. Paul Wilson, that I knew, volunteered with me at the Trinity Food Pantry. Paul was an avid and active community person. You may remember him. He spoke against tearing down Mark Twain School, and he was very seriously involved in that effort. Paul died on the 31st of December, and one might say he had proper closure to his life. At the end of the year, he passed away. Another person that I wanted to give respect to is Darlene Moss Bowie, the friend of a local artist and friend of mine who also volunteered. Her sister, Darlene's sister, Donna, volunteers at Trinity Pantry, and Darlene passed away after a long illness, so I wanted to pay respects to both of them. As I start the year, I just want to wish everyone a peaceful year, a happy year, a healthy year, and a prosperous year. And it looks like Pontiac is on the road to prosperity when we look at the budget that was presented to us. I don't want us to move into the year fearful. I want the city to make an offer to Mr. Dave Parker, the current owner of our golf course, which is now called the Links of Crystal Lake, formerly known as Pontiac Municipal Golf Course, formerly known as Wilson Park, one of the only parks that was taken away from us by the emergency manager. And so to that end, I'd like for the city to make an offer to Mr. Parker for the amount of $2 million. Make that offer for the amount of $2 million. He paid $550,000. Let's say he put a million into the property. Let's give him
15 seconds remaining.
Let's give him an additional $0.5 million and be done with it. But at least go on the record to let him know where we stand. Thank you. Have a great year, people. And I thank you for this time.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Wright. That concludes our public comment. President McGinnis.
Thank you, Pro Tem Carrington. We are now at discussions. Number 6. The Michigan Department of Transportation has informed the City Council that following the votes of this body in opposition to repurposing of the westbound lanes of Huron, or M59, and the installation of multiple pedestrian refuge islands on that same stretch of M59, that they will no longer be pursuing those projects. So the state is no longer going to be trying to decommission that lane. And then it was 4 or 5 pedestrian refuge islands between Telegraph to the west and then the Woodward Loop. So it's in that stretch that they were proposing those changes. So they will no longer be making either of those changes. It is a state road. They have the authority, but they've made a policy where they want to listen a great deal more to the community. So Pontiac is helping reshape state transportation policy based on past battles and battle scars. So I just want to make sure the community was aware of that. We'll stay in communication with the State Department of Transportation about future improvements that they may be trying to make to Huron or other state roads. Any further discussion on that item?
Just really
Councilwoman
quickly,
Rutherford.
it just shows the power of when people work together and we have real conversations. And so you should give yourself kudos for those who wrote, those who contacted, those who emailed, because it took a collaborative effort. So kudos to y'all because y'all made it happen. And that's just my word on it. Thanks so much.
Yeah, and I want to give a shout out to Councilman Nicholson and District 2 residents. They did a lot of work getting the word out to make sure that there was basically a hotline you could call and offer your feedback on what you thought. And there were a lot of District 2 residents, not only District 2, but a lot of District 2 that weighed in. So I wanted to acknowledge the work that they put into that. Any further discussion? So again, there may be future initiatives or projects that come along, but that's the status of those two that were a matter of discussion in recent weeks. Our second and final discussion is a quick FYI that Hyundai and Kia vehicle thefts have increased by 1,000% around the country. Thieves have cracked the code to how to get into those particular vehicles and their steering columns. So it's causing a lot of problems beyond just Pontiac. But there was a specific story that caught a lot of news. There was a Kia Sportage in a driveway in District 2 near Huron and M59, or Huron and Telegraph, that had presents in it, Christmas presents intended for a 4-year-old son. And the car with the presents was stolen. But the Sheriff's Department was able to retrieve the vehicle, retrieve the presents. Christmas was saved for the 4-year-old boy. But they used that story to get the word out about Kia so that way people know. And specifically, there are wheel locks or steering wheel attachments that the Sheriff's Department is distributing to Pontiac residents. So if you, your neighbor, your family member has one of these vehicles, this is a way to help deter and hopefully limit the vulnerability of those vehicles. So you can call the Sheriff Department at 248-858-5000. The Community Policing Division, of which there are multiple members serving in our community, can provide more information to community members, community organizations. We had at our District 7 meeting last night, Deputy Garcia was there, and he confirmed this morning that there's still some more of those available. So we just want to make sure the community is aware of that. Any further discussion on that second and final discussion item? All right. That concludes discussions. We are now at communications. These are listed in terms of upcoming events in the community. If you have any that you'd like to have listed, give us a shout, let us know. But here's a few that are happening between now and the next City Council meeting. There's a comedy show at the Strand Theater, Earthquake, featuring LeVar Walker, is on January 13th, 8 p.m. You can contact the Flagstar Strand online or at their box office for more info. On Monday, January 15th, as you will likely know, and we discussed when we considered the resolution, there's a march in downtown Pontiac starting at the base of the Phoenix Center at Water Street in Saginaw. The march will go to McLaren Oakland Hospital. And following that, there is a program at McLaren Oakland Hospital Monday morning in their lobby atrium from about 9:30 to 10:30 a.m. And then there's a luncheon presented by the Greater Pontiac Community Coalition in honor of Dr. King and the holiday, Monday, January 15th at 11:30 a.m., held at the Centerpoint Marriott. For more information, contact Dorinda Shaw at 248-335-8740. With that, we'll turn to Mayor Grimel for Mayor's Office Communications.
Thank you, President McGinnis. I want to reiterate, as I mentioned last week, that we have a lot of exciting youth recreation programming and events coming up. I want to thank, as I have in the past, our youth recreation manager, Tanisha Taylor, for her incredible work, really bringing back robust youth recreation programming to the city after many years of the city not doing much in that space. And to be a little more specific, we've got a lot of winter programs, including baking classes, kickboxing, The Voice, which is a singing program, mentoring opportunities, robotics, tutoring, boxing in addition to kickboxing, 3D printing, And I don't know if how many folks are familiar with 3D printers, but they're pretty amazing. And this is a great opportunity to expose young people to this really cutting-edge technology that is going to become ever more prevalent in our economy. We've got intermediate band opportunities, digital content opportunities for those budding computer wizards. And we really want to encourage people to spread the word, enroll young people in the community. We had 2,000 people enrolled in summer youth rec programs this past summer, and we want to make sure that we're increasing the number of people enrolled throughout the school year as well. They can do so either by going online at PontiacRecreation.recdesk, that's recdesk.com, PontiacRecreation.recdesk.com, or by calling here at City Hall at 248-758-3037. Also, on January 20th, that's Saturday, from 5 to 8 p.m., that's this Saturday, in fact, I think. No, it's 2 Saturdays from now, forgive me. 2 Saturdays from now, January 20th, from 5 to 8 p.m., right here at the Pontiac City Hall grounds, we will have our second annual Winterfest. This will include ice skating, s'mores, some shopping opportunities with local vendors, a Polar Express ride, music, food, hot chocolate, other than the shopping, all free. So please come on out. This is a great family-friendly event. It was a huge success last year, and we know it'll be another great success this year as well. Then on February 10th, also a Saturday, we have our second annual city-sponsored annual Daddy-Daughter Dance. So we hope that people will reach out and enroll in that great opportunity. And then an early heads up that later this spring, we have our Spring Bash and Egg Hunt on Saturday, March 23rd as well. Shifting gears, we have some really important programming to make sure that tenants are aware of their rights. This will include both the city's new program allowing tenants to put money into escrow rather than paying landlords if their properties have not been registered and certified as rental properties. Tenants can put that money into escrow. We've talked quite a bit about that at city council meetings, but that will be one of the many topics of these upcoming town halls for tenants to learn more about their rights so that we can all collectively do more to reduce the exploitation that slumlords engage in the community. Those dates for these tenant right town hall meetings are Saturday, January 20th, from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Bowen Center. So you can go to that to learn about tenant rights, and then later in the day, come here to City Hall for the Winterfest. Then we've got another town hall about tenants' rights on Monday, January 29th, from 5:30 to 7 p.m., also at the Bowen Center. And then the final town hall is Thursday, February 1st, from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. right here at Pontiac City Hall here in the council chambers. And then 2 additional announcements. We really want to make sure that we're hiring as many Pontiac residents as possible, both for direct City Hall jobs, but also for our 50th District Court jobs. So I just want to announce some of the openings that are available here at the city and at the 50th District Court. Here at the city, we have a building maintenance foreman position open, a building maintenance laborer position open, building technician, chief assistant clerk, code enforcement officer, events coordinator, grant accountant, public works director, public works director's assistant, public works foreman, public works laborer 1, public works laborer 2, and a youth recreation instructor position. And then at the 50th District Court, they have a full-time court clerk position open, a full-time court officer, 1 or more full-time court officer positions open, as well as a part-time court magistrate. So please, if you're interested and qualified for any of those positions, please reach out either to the city, and all these positions are posted on the city's website, or in the case of 50th District Court positions, they handle that hiring themselves, so reach out to the 50th District Court. And that's all I've got by way of announcements, Mr. President.
All right, Mayor Grimo, closing comments.
Yeah, just a few quick items. I want to again reiterate, and I know President McGinnis beat me to the punch, but people are not required to pay parking meters on Sunday. On-street parking is free on Sundays and holidays. So make sure not to pay on downtown meters on Sundays. Secondly, the audit is certainly available if people want to stop in and ask for a hard paper copy of it. We'd be happy to provide that. It will very shortly be available on the city's website as well. We wanted to first have the presentation tonight so that we could, at the not quite the very beginning of the new year, but just about the beginning of the new year, present the basic summary of it publicly. And we will be posting that audit later this week so that members of the public can actually go online and get into all the weeds if they'd like. That audit was filed with the state at the very end of December. And I know that this isn't the first meeting of January, but it is the first evening meeting of January. And we wanted to make sure that we were taking that opportunity to get some of the information and facts out about the audit and some of the good news that we have to share. But again, that will be posted online later this week. And if people also want to come down to City Hall and ask for a hard copy, we're happy to oblige. We want to make sure that we're being as transparent as possible. I know that there was a comment made about the structural deficit that we inherited when the 7 council members and I came into office 2 years ago. And that is true, that we came into office, and in that fiscal year, the city was projected to spend more during that fiscal year than it was taking in revenue that year. The city did have, as I've explained many times before, a fund balance or a savings account, if you will. But during that fiscal year that we entered office, the city was projected to spend more than it was taking in revenue. We've been very fortunate that through the hard work of our team, we've been able to drastically reduce that deficit and, in fact, run a couple of years of year-to-year surpluses, even without taking into account that $10 million of ARPA funds. But we have a lot more work to do because we have a lot of service needs here in the city. Providing those services costs money. And we really need to find a way to balance the needs of improving and increasing services to our residents, which we've done quite a bit of in terms of code enforcement services, in terms of DPW services, while also trying to make sure that we're increasing the city's revenue by bringing more business investment and more residents here, retaining more of our existing residents here so that we have more taxpayers. And of course, expanding economic opportunity so that those who may be unemployed here or underemployed here actually can get good paying jobs, thereby contributing additional tax revenue to the city. But we're not going to just cut our way out of a deficit, because that would mean slashing important services that are needed, not just for people's quality of life here, but also to make sure that we are retaining and attracting more residents and attracting more business investment. So we've got to make sure that we're improving service delivery, providing the services that people want, while simultaneously increasing revenue so that we can actually pay for those needed services. I also want to touch on the comment made by Ms. Wright, which is very important to acknowledge those who have given so much to the community. And in connection with Mr. Paul Wilson, I want to thank him not just for his activism with Newman AME Church, not just for his advocacy in the community about a number of subjects over the years, but also for his service on the Marijuana Commission. I appointed him to the Marijuana Commission, and I did that because I knew that he would act with integrity on that commission, that he would do what he felt was best for the residents of our city and not be unduly influenced by special interests. And that is exactly what he did during his time on the Marijuana Commission. So I'm very grateful to Mr. Wilson in particular for his service in that regard. And then lastly, I do want to just say a few things since Councilman Brett Nicholson isn't here to defend himself. I think it's really important to appreciate the fact that, as Councilman Nicholson has said, he's dealing with health issues, That is not fun for any of us who have gone through serious health issues in our lives. And he has done a Herculean job of still being engaged in the community, still attending meetings in his district, still coming to city council meetings, voting on important matters here. And to try to kick somebody while they're down, to kick somebody or publicly criticize somebody while they're suffering from health issues is absolutely inexcusable and shameful. And the other thing I would note is that we've had a lot of council people over the years who have had health issues, particularly in that district. And I don't remember anybody coming down here in the past and blasting and kicking people while they're down, while they're struggling with serious health issues. And I would appreciate it if people didn't do that with Councilman Nicholson.
Clerk Doyle, closing comments.
Thank you, Mr. President. I too want to echo the mayor's comments about Mr. Wilson. As the mayor mentioned, and express my condolences to the family of the late Mr. Paul Wilson. Mr. Wilson actually served as the vice chair of the Medical Marijuana Commission, and he did do it very diligent. So I too want to express my condolences to the Wilson family. I also want to clarify, a member of the public mentioned that Hidden River being designated a park by the DDA. The DDA was dissolved by the emergency manager, and then on August 20th, 2019, Resolution 19-421, City Council approved a resolution to designate Hidden River Park as an entertainment space, not as a park. And Hidden River Park was not included in the last Parks and Recreation Master Plan. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. City Council closing comments. Councilman Parker?
Thank you, Brother President. I want to first remind everybody that this District 5 CDC meeting is scheduled for January 11th, 2024 at 5 p.m. in the Lions Den downstairs. We're looking forward to seeing everybody there. Again, District 5 CDC meeting, January 11th, 2024, 5 p.m. in the Lions Den downstairs. We're looking forward to sharing with each and every one of you who are in attendance. I want to make a correction for those of you who picked up the newsletter, because he gave me some calls. When we were talking about our beautification program, we got the name wrong in the newsletter. It was Gary Hendon and not Jerry Hendon, because I didn't know the difference, so he called me. But it's Gary Hendon that won the award for the beautification. He asked that I would make that announcement because they've been calling his brother, congratulating him, and he wanted to make sure that they knew, because his brother had been calling him and telling him it was the wrong person. So, Mr. Hendon, thank you for letting us know that. And so we, as I said, and when we put our next newsletter, we'll certainly make an acknowledgement in the next newsletter that goes out. The Oakland County Ministerial Fellowship will kick off the Martin Luther King weekend celebration with an emancipation services Sunday, 4 p.m. Welcome Missionary Baptist Church. I believe our current president, Pastor Douglas Jones, will be the keynote speaker for that event. Again, the Oakland County Ministerial Fellowship will kick off the Martin Luther King weekend celebration with an emancipation service at Welcome Missionary Baptist Church, 4 p.m. At 4 p.m. this Sunday, the 14th. I want to remind everybody of that. And certainly, if you wish to come out in March, it was mentioned in the agenda. It starts at 9 a.m. in front of the Phoenix Center, and we'll be marching down to McLaren and having a service there. And then, in closing, I want to thank President McGinnis for coming and sharing with us the past Saturday for the homegoing of one of the oldest members of my church, New Springfield Missionary Baptist Church, Brother Verge Schoolboy Smith. And I want to thank you. He was 95. He had been a community activist. He was active in the community. He'd done a lot of things for the community. And I want to just thank the President for coming and acknowledging that and sharing with us and making sure that that was a good celebration. And with that, I say good evening, have a great evening, and we'll see you next Tuesday, if not sooner.
Thank you, sir. Councilwoman Kathleen James, District 4.
Yes, some of what I was going to mention has already been mentioned, but I do want to also say that I was very sorry to hear about Paul Wilson's death. Worked with Paul for years at Pontiac Motors, Plant 14. And but I wanted to also add that, you know, the moment of silence that we do for the council has taken on a special significance when you consider that years ago we could easily go to the Oakland Press and keep up with, who we were losing in the community. It was a lot easier to do. But now, I literally had not heard about his death and wouldn't have known about it had it not been announced in this meeting. So I really appreciate the fact that we are doing these moments of silence and recognizing people, who are dying in the community, because there really are not a lot of other ways for people to find out what is going on. So I, for one, appreciate what is going on with that. And also, I want to say my condolences to Paul's family. He really was a wonderful man. You couldn't ask for a more beautiful person to work with than Paul Wilson. So I'm going to miss him, and my deepest condolences to the family. Also, it was mentioned about Hidden River Park, and that was also commented on by the clerk's office, but that space, Hidden River has always been a space, and it's to the credit of the previous administration and the council for actually making sure that that space is in fact designated as Hidden River space and not a park. And also, finally, our District 4 Community Council meeting will be on Thursday, January the 25th at 6 p.m. at the new Mount Moriah International Church that's located at 313 Walton Boulevard in the city of Pontiac. And with that, thank you very much and have a great night.
Thank you. Councilman McHale Goodman, District 3.
To make it real simple, I want to say thank you to everyone who came out for the District 3 meeting, including the town hall. That was for North Hill Farms, receiving $10 million from HUD in terms of renovations, improvements, and upgrades. And to make sure so everyone can get home. Any District 3 resident who would like to know what I've been doing for the past 2 years to a decent level of detail can have this lovely sheet that I've drafted and printed out with everything that has been accomplished, not only in the city of Pontiac, but for District 3 specifically. So I see one of my favorite District 3 residents sitting in the audience, so I'll make sure I give you some extra copies for yourself and your neighbors. And anyone else in the city who's interested to know what District 3 and the city has done. I have a very detailed, because I am a nerd, very detailed sheet about everything that we've done. So if you're curious, always come ask. But with that, I do say good night.
You're a very cool nerd.
I try to be.
Councilwoman Rutherford, District 1.
I have decided to stick with love because hate bears too much. That was said by Martin Luther King Jr. Happy New Year. This is a year of new beginning. The number 8 is a biblical number in numerology representing victory, prosperity, and overcoming. Pontiac is prosperous. Why? Because the moment you say it, it changes. Pontiac is producing. Why? Because there are more jobs that have been produced last year than there has been in the past. Pontiac is the place where you can actually raise your family the minute you get past all of the naysayers and you really point out what we've been able to do in 2 years. Pontiac School District is improving because they no longer have, if you would like to hear, what's the word? I want to say it right. President Garrett, y'all don't owe them no money no more. They gave y'all some money. Okay, so y'all don't have no deficit no more. So we're improving. The families are improving because we're having activities where families could come. The CDC is improving because we have open communications. And in the District 1 alone, we do a year in review report that is sent to every district member of my district. And the reason why we do that is because anybody can get up there and say what they want to say. But facts is facts. And the fact is Bagley has been completed. The fact is Franklin has been completed. The fact is Golf Drive, Josie Bird, is getting completed in 2024. The fact is that there are more housing being built in District 1. The fact is more funding has been between District 1 and 7 than any other district. The fact is that the things that you guys say you want to have are actually being done. Those are the facts, not emotion. Facts. Because this is the year in Pontiac for prosperity. Home ownership is happening. You know how I know? Because I'm closing on my house, and I never thought that could happen, but it's happening in my district with 8 other of my friends who are closing on their houses because prosperity is here, because there are programs that are being brought here that were not brought previously here because people couldn't work with administrations, because people didn't know how to talk to people, and because people had sideline conversations. That's not emotional, baby. That is fact. This year is about what we're going to do as a city. And you can make your faces, and you can make your comments, and you can come at Tim, and you can come at Michael. But at the end of the day, let's look at how the citizens felt prior to us, and look at how they're feeling now. Are there things that we need to continue to work on? Yes. Mr. Jones, you want to work on making sure we have people working in this community? I do too. We can do that this year if we have the right attitude. I'm pointing y'all out to say that it's not just me, and I'm not sliding on, I'm not trying to air nobody out. I'm trying to give y'all hope that you guys can be the change makers, and then we can present the change. 2024 is about changing this city. And so the question is very simple. Do you choose to live in, I got it. Do you choose to live in hate, or are you going to choose to live in love? Last but certainly not least, District 1 meeting is at every last Saturday of the month at the Alley Cat from 3 to 5. The speakers will be the mayor, Timothy Grimel, the deputy mayor, Kafani Stevens, and a whole bunch of other people. God bless and good night.
Pro Tem Carrington, District 6.
Wow, I hate to come behind Councilwoman Melanie Rutherford. Good evening, everyone, and Happy New Year to District 6 residents as well as residents of the city of Pontiac. I look forward to continually serving in my current capacity. As we embark on 2024, please consider supporting local small businesses in the 6th District. As we take pride in our beautiful neighborhoods, please dispose of trash responsibly and report any blight or litter issues promptly. As you can see from the district, for this first 2 years, code enforcement has stepped up the game in the 6th District. And I know for over a decade, with efforts, it was really almost impossible to get the neighborhoods cleaned up. And I'm gonna say again, almost impossible. So I continue to work with code enforcement as we look for ways to remove the blight out of the 6th District. Improvements I've seen along University Avenue, improvements I've been seeing along Perry Road, as well in the alleys in the 6th District that hasn't been maintained by any city administration in probably 30 to 40 years. So we have seen these improvements, and we look forward to continue to fight blight in our neighborhood. Public safety. Now, if you walk through the neighborhoods, you see pride. You see pride of people that want to buy homes. In my neighborhood, for example, in the Nose, as soon as a house go up for sale, it's sold within 30 to 60 days in that neighborhood. So people are buying homes, but we still have work to do. We still have work to do. We have to become a more friendly city, and I'm gonna say this, friendly city. And I know a lot of times city folks don't like to hear that. We have to be welcoming to our new neighbors. For example, I moved here. I didn't know anybody in this city, but I drove around the neighborhood. I went through it in the morning. I went through it at night. I saw the dope selling in front of my house I bought. I saw all these things. But that didn't deter me from buying a house in this city, but it may deter others. So again, even my own transition wasn't easy because some people still say, why are you here? I'm here because I want to be a homeowner. And Mr. Bass laughed because he knows what was said to me for years when I was a homeowner in this city and bought a home in this city. So again, we have to love each other. Council Rutherford said love. I believe in that too. We have to have love for our neighbors. So again, our community's overall well-being and sense of community is improving. District meetings, I'm currently working on the dates for this current year. Those meetings are held quarterly. I try to have those meetings in different parts of the community.
15 seconds.
15 seconds. I feel like I'm in public comment right now. Oh, thank you. Also, community projects. I'm still looking for community projects. So please call me, send me emails, because I don't want you saying I spent all the money on things that William won't. So please talk to me, call me. Let's work on some community projects together, and good night.
Conclude your time. Thank you, sir. Good evening. I'm Mike McGinnis, District 7. Want to thank all of our neighbors that came out to a great discussion at last night's monthly East Side Community Meeting. It's always the second Monday of the month, 7 p.m. at Prospect Church, 351 Prospect Street. So the next one is February 12th. Please come out. A great time is had. And as a bonus, everyone that was there last night got candy bars, free candy bars. That's right. So you never know what's waiting for you at your District 7 meeting. One thing that was shared by Minister Kevin Sanders in attendance, one of our residents in the district, is that there's somebody that lives on Auburn Avenue, and he has a YouTube channel and lawn care business. And so he'll go and neglected or overgrown areas, he will, at no cost, clean it up and film it. But it makes for really entertaining to see something that's sort of overgrown and neglected, to see it cut, the tons of debris that's cleared out, the edging, the beautiful sidewalks, the power washing, and his YouTube channel, if you want to see it. The most recent one was at Michigan and Roselawn, and Minister Sanders went out and said, what's going on? You know, just started talking to him and wanted to figure out what was going on in his neighborhood. And so I'm really grateful that he was able to connect with him, express the appreciation from the neighborhood, and I want to share that if anyone's interested to see the YouTube creator. His name is Midlife Stockman. So one word, midlife, and then the second word, Stockman, one word. If you want to check that out, it's currently only from 3 weeks ago. It's at 52,000 views. So cleaning up on a vacant lot on Pontiac's East Side is must-see television. So I hope everyone is safe and healthy and gets home safely. That concludes the formal portion of our agenda, and I want to thank everyone who helped make it an efficient one, done in an hour and 45 minutes. It is, as you may have detected, a New Year's resolution. We want to respect and value your time, the council's time, and the community's time, so that way we're effectively handling business while allowing the community their voice as well. With that, is there a motion to adjourn?
Support.
It's been moved by Councilman Rutherford, seconded by Councilman Parker to adjourn this evening's meeting. Hearing no discussion, roll call, Clerk Doyle.
Carrington,
Yes.
Goodman,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Rutherford.
Yes.
6 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. We are adjourned at 7:40.